The minute before we begin is Chad's tech support minute.
It is. I just saw that YouTube was open again, and I almost did a repeat of what happened last time.
I was going to text you and say, can you make sure that all of your windows are closed and that your headphones are appropriately connected, like we were taking off on an airplane? Like shut down all of your large electronic devices.
It is, but I think we should just get.
Let's get going.
Small talk, Todd. We've got a lot in store for
that. We do.
This evening. So,
welcome to Hoppy Hanukkah. I'm Todd Summers,
and I'm Chad Brodsky, and we're going to be drinking with you for I don't know how long. So we have a very special guest who we will introduce shortly. But before we can introduce that person, we need beer.
Night 4.
Todd, you really butchered your box already.
So mean.
I'm sorry.
Ooh, oh, it's a koozie and a sticker.
My koozie is different than yours. Mine is Hop On. It's actually Brewvana, a company we acquired. Awesome tour company, brewery tour business in Portland, Oregon.
Hair Razor, Exhibit A.
Oh, wow. Look, Matthew also has that beer.
I wonder, why? I bet he knows a ton about this beer.
It's very presumptuous of him, of you to think that, but let's see. So we're super excited because we have Matthew Steinberg here. He is the head brewer and co-founder of Exhibit A, or Night 4's beer. So we're going to hear about him. We're going to hear about his brewery, Exhibit A. We're going to talk about the IPA, that infamous style of beer, and then the different variations that exist right now. So
excited. So very excited to have Matthew here. He's from Exhibit A, which we said it's Framingham, Massachusetts. So if anyone out there is near Framingham, Massachusetts, we'd love to see it in the chat. Exhibit A was actually our most recently signed brewery for City Brew Tours, one of our brewery stops pre-COVID. So we were a pandemic shy of bringing a group there. So we figured we'd do the next best thing and just bring the brewery to you.
Just as a reminder, if you want your questions answered by Matthew, we want to hear him use the Q&A so we can actually make sure that we're answering them live. Also, people want to know where your suit is. He's got the color.
I mean, come on. Look at this jacket, you know?
It looks
This is a 1950s original seersucker right here.
It's awesome. So yeah, and then the chat. We want to hear from you, the people at home. I am saying chat and not Chad. That can be confusing, as we've seen, and I need to open my beer. So, Matt, why don't you introduce yourself while I'm opening my beer and tell us a little bit about Exhibit A, because we have guests from all over the country.
Right on. Thank you so much for having me, Chad and Todd. I really appreciate it. My name is Matthew Steinberg, like he said. Brewing. We're in Framingham. We just celebrated our 4th full year in September. We brew a wide variety of beers, from hoppy beers to malty beers to Kolsch and everything in between. We're a company of about 25 people, 14 of which of us are full-time. And it's been an interesting year, obviously, with COVID and everything. We've had to pivot. We've been really successful with that pivot and have found our beers in the marketplace and been very successful with that. Some form of success this year, even tiny little incremental growth, which is unbelievable right now to be able to even say. So we're kind of dancing right now at the end of the year going, thank God we didn't complete hemorrhage, just skip right ahead to Hair Razor. It's our double IPA in our core portfolio. You hear some background noise. That's my son in the background. So, Hair Razor, our double IPA, it's led with Galaxy, Mosaic, a little bit of Chinook on the bittering, but it is dry hop with that Galaxy, Mosaic, and some cryo hops in there as well. It's peachy and citrusy, big, bold, 8%. Obviously got that nice haze to it. I don't know which way to go with the camera. There you go. We brew this beer pretty much all the time. It's in the tank constantly. It's a leader in our portfolio for sure.
So, like every night, we are going to do that tasting, and instead of us leading that, it's going to be Matthew here, because why do you want to hear from us when you can hear it from the person who actually brewed the beer? He is the head brewer of Exhibit A. So
I came this close to just not showing up tonight. I figured I could just play hooky and no one would notice. But cheers before we.
Yeah, cheers. I am not cheersing close to the camera because every time I do, I just become a blurry mess. So.
And I'm likely to spill right on my computer. So a lot of people ask, where do some of our names come from? Exhibit A, brewers tend to be on display. I came from the brew pub world, and there was always this sort of presentation thing about me. I love kind of standing up, and it's odd. I don't love Zoom, but or being on, on a remote situation, but in the room at the event or at the brewery, I love speaking about what we do, and I love sharing that story. And yeah, it just kind of came from presentation and kind of being the fish in the fishbowl a little bit. And it sort of has changed, like that meaning has tweaked a little bit as we started to name some of our beers. Hair Raiser was kind of like that last minute, like, decision in the courtroom, like, you've got to be kidding me. But it became this rabbit punk rock. Kelsey Roth, our GM, designed this rabbit, and it's kind of weird steampunk carrot on the back. And yeah.
I was going to have a very technical question. It was going to be like, first question is like, what does hair raiser mean?
We don't know. Besides maybe the last second in that courtroom when they make the decision and you're like, he's innocent? OJ, are you kidding me?
Major Donnie Darko vibes for me.
Yeah.
The rabbit, for the bunny, do you get that frequently?
Yeah, that's definitely a reference that we hold dear to our heart. We knew that when it happened. It's funny because a lot of these logos, certainly the cat, which is our, kind of the leader in our portfolio, where we go, cat's meow at the back, two sides of every story, so they say. And we started to think about, let's just have fun with these names. Like, you named your first beer Cat's Meow. You're kind of, if you're taking us seriously, there may be a mistake. You just want to consider for a moment that we're kind of just having a good time. Goody Two Shoes, which is our Kolsch beer, is like, we were thinking about innocence. Like, how do we name a Kolsch? Like, I want it to be innocence. And there's these sort of law influences because of Exhibit A. And we kind of have sort of stretched that out real thin. Like, we've got Briefcase Porter, and like, I guess everybody needs a briefcase. My grandmother bought me a briefcase when I graduated high school. Like, what? I've never even used that briefcase. It's in the closet. I'm not going to get rid of it.
Before we get into the tasting, I just have to come a little bit clean. I'm allergic to both bunny rabbits and cats, like, severely. So I don't know if that'll affect our relationship going forward. But
look out!
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
That's crazy.
So can you take everyone at home and us through this Hair Raiser double IPA?
Sure. We build a really kind of pronounced and deliberate malt character in our beers. We focus on local malts. Valley Malt here in Massachusetts is our close friends and one of our big malt suppliers. So we use a combination of their wheat and some German carafoam malts and English barley in the form of Maris Otter, and of course other things in there as well to build a really nice bold malt backbone to hold off this severe bitterness that we're going to get from the Chinook edition in the boil. For us, we like the beers to be really rich in character without being sweet. A lot of the sort of newer, certainly New England style IPAs tend to head towards that sweet side of things without being a very dry and crispy beer. So I like to find right in the middle there where we're still getting that crispiness from being attenuated and dry enough to still feel those hops. We like bitterness. I've been brewing 21 years professionally, and I just can't consider brewing a double IPA and not have it have some perceived bitterness. And so that's how we push it. And, I use a combination of my sort of 90s roots with Chinook and Cascade. And then I bring in some of the more current, more well-known hops, I guess, to the current portfolios like Galaxy and Mosaic and Citra. There's no Citra in Hair Razor, but that, those varieties. So we do a 3-week beer for all of our hop forward beers. So we brew generally on it 3 Tuesdays later, and it's ready to go. And we try to keep it as fresh in the market as possible. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Yeah.
You mentioned double IPA. So we want to just make sure people are understanding terms.
Yeah.
Because this is also like City Brew Tours is all about education and not just drinking. They're both, they go hand in hand. Can you kind of just, I know you could probably write a dissertation about IPAs, and we're going to get into a little bit more about the IPAs, and we have tons of questions from the Q&A. Keep them coming. Todd's monitoring that. Unfortunately, Kate's not available tonight, so we don't have our angel from above participant. I guess
I'm like fairly certain Kate is here, Chad.
Oh, but I don't think she only might be blessed then by
Kate. Kate. Blink twice if you're here.
We don't.
Well, I guess we don't have Kate. I thought she was here.
Don't have Kate.
Technically, it's my night off, so I'm enjoying.
Oh.
Yeah, why are you bringing her? Why are you forcing her to participate when I said I knew she wasn't working?
First rule of showbiz, Chad, you give the people what they want. And we've learned that the people at home they're interested in Matthew, Exhibit A, and Kate. We're just here.
So you just a quick 2 seconds about double versus single IPAs.
My son is making so much noise. He's doing that trick where you put the knife in your hands. Luckily, he's using a Sharpie.
Oh, no, I switched this.
Oh, he's using a pen. Never mind. Don't stab yourself.
Oh, I did a few times.
Go.
See,
All victories, I'm not a parent, but I would imagine that's like better than a steak knife.
Sharpie on me.
Yeah, it is.
I have Sharpie on me.
Oh, good. Go. Please,
Sharpie.
please go. If you knew this, there's 17,000 people watching this. That would stay away. So double IPA, what you want me to talk about double IPAs? Is that what you said?
Yep.
Just difference between double versus single.
Double versus single.
In our brewery, we do a pretty wide variety of IPAs. So we have 6.5% sort of classic New England IPA. Once it gets over 7.5%, we call it a double IPA. We use this term double dry hopped a lot in these new current beers, not just my brewery, certainly, but a lot of breweries. So all of our beers technically are double dry hopped. We dry hop them with 2 charges. So
you're using dry hop.
Yeah. What is that?
What is dry hop?
So it's a term that is it's a misnomer. Nothing's dry about it. The beer is wet. It's liquid, clearly. We are taking pellet hops and sometimes cryo pellet hops, and we're putting them into the fermenter. But we have this really cool contraption that's basically a stainless steel bucket with a pressurized lid, and we can kind of pump the beer through it and drop the hops into that stream. It's called a dry hop doser or inducer. We use coffee in it, fruit, hops.
Oh, that sounds so cool.
It's pretty cool.
You can infuse anything essentially into.
Is that sort of like a Randall?
It is kind of, except it's not a filter. It's basically like picture just a big giant stainless steel bucket with a pump under it and a bunch of piping, and we run the beer. Okay. We run the beer through that manifold, and as it travels through that pipe, we drop the hops in from that bucket, and it kind of the hops swim along that stream, and immediately when we're fruiting a beer like that, the beer is immediately purple. Like it's, if we're using blackberries or raspberries or whatever, it's like that beer is fruited immediately. It's pretty great, and it's a safer, certainly more efficient and better way to dry hop for us, at least.
Robert W. in the chat said it sounds like a salmon ladder.
A salmon lake could kind of be considered that. I've never run salmon through it.
Please don't. Please don't.
I have a Super Bassomatic. I have the Super Bassomatic 76 in the fridge there in the pantry just in case I need that. But
I mean, there's a lot of cream cheese and lox beer. I've never seen it.
It's probably okay. It's good that you haven't.
It's probably good that I haven't. But now that I've said it, I guarantee that it's going to be there because there are just some crazy beers out there right now.
Brian
Very-
mentioned it sounds like a torpedo. Brian mentioned that it sounds like a torpedo, which is what Sierra Nevada invented. The only difference between what we have as an inducer and a torpedo is that the torpedo actually shoves all the hops in under pressure through a port, whereas we're dropping it through a stream of beer. So we're actually pumping the beer around it, whereas a torpedo just shoves the hops in without running the liquid through it. It's basically the same idea. Sierra's
so
is
cool.
much nicer and much larger than mine. That's for sure.
Well, yours
I just wanna say,
sounds very fun.
there are people that would try an everything bagel / cream cheese and lox beers. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying we should do it. I'm just saying that there are people out there that are willing to try it.
I like people generally.
Let's get to some of these people's questions, Matthew. And I'm going to combine two. Someone who's anonymous asked what your favorite hop to brew with is, and then Robert also asked who names the hops. And Chad introduced everyone to a hop last night that sounded like a droid from Star Wars. So I think if you could expand on the naming process a little bit, that would be
it's incredible.
1961. Yeah.
I will tell you this.
140.
I will tell you this. The hop naming world is, I mean, the hop companies are naming these hops, right? Like Yakima Chief comes up with names. They have a whole creative department that does that. Barth Haas as well. The farmers in New Zealand, the farmers all over Europe. I have clearly nothing to do with that, but I will say there's something really incredible about when a hop becomes sexy, it has this really interesting name, and somehow we gravitate to it. So I don't necessarily have a favorite hop to brew with. I will say that some of my favorite beers that contain particular hops, you know, I gravitate to those beers. I'm a big fan of Mosaic. I find it to be just it's hard for me not to like a beer if it's popping with Mosaic. But I'm a traditional guy. Like I want Tettnang and Saaz and a gently
Like
hopped
you want noble hops.
I love noble hops.
Love noble hops.
Yeah. But one of my favorite hops, I think, just in the world, is there's a hop farmer and company called Siegel Ranch, and they're in Washington. And John Siegel and his family have run this farm for a couple generations, from what I understand. And they grow Cascades like the old school original Cascades. Now, the Cascades you buy in the open market from large hop producers, you could almost say like they're kind of the ground meat of hops, because you're getting Cascade from 50 different lots. They're grinding it all together, and they're great. They're Cascade, but his are these high oil, beautiful, unbelievably incredible hops. And he
not commoditized essentially.
No, it's like this is a single lot from that field.
That's
and
awesome.
This is
that's cool.
We look at that stuff as like just a huge badge of honor to be able to use those type of hops, and we do have his hops. Same with like any of the New Zealand stuff coming from freestyle hops. Theirs are some of the best in the world. People talk about Nelson and Metueka and these amazing hops that New Zealand's growing. And they're super fun to use. But if anything, they're just fun to open. And you're like, oh my God, all the brewers gather around.
You said sexy hops. I'm still stuck on that. I was like, what's the sexiest hop out there? Todd, what
No, that made a lot of sense to me, Chad. There was nothing confusing about that statement.
I was just wondering. I thought you were gonna. You have a sexy.
He's not confused. Todd's totally at ease with it.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I was cool with that. I heard sexy hops. And I was like, I know what Matthew's talking about.
I think like the way I look at it, and I don't mind mentioning my friends' other breweries and stuff, but you look at a brewery like Trillium or Other Half or some of these other breweries that are really like, people are loving their products and traveling from all over to get them. And, I talk with these guys a lot. Like a lot of us are friends. And one of the things I've noticed about some of the beers that Trillium does really well with is that when it has that hop name, like double dry hop with whatever, people are lining up for it. And it's the hop industry has done themselves an amazing service by creating this kind of sexy appeal about some of these hops, right? And we look at them, they're like, oh, people don't ask how many IBUs are in your beer or what the alcohol is even anymore. They want to know what the hops are. It's like, well, what about the beautiful Maris Otter grown in in the valleys?
Yeah. What about the malts? The malts like out there being like, what about me, dude? Like,
and we focus hard on the malts. Yeah.
Beer.
Yeah, it's true.
I
Like, the
usually
hops
go
would
for a
just
cool
have-
like
they would
label.
be
The label helps
overpowering
me.
without the malt side part.
Yeah.
Counterpoint.
We have a couple questions, one in the chat, one in the Q&A, and one, Robert W. said, this one sure looks hazy. Is it in fact hazy?
It is hazy.
I think we can probably get, that's probably fairly true. And he wants to
Fingers
know,
through.
what does that term refer to?
Turbidity. Turbidity is the amount of solids in a liquid, right? So we look at, a perfectly clear beverage like my water right here in my fancy Bissell Brothers / Exhibit A / Roy Farm hop thing. You have anything from perfectly clear to opaque and everything in between. We don't currently measure our turbidity. You would need a rather fancy turbidity meter, which would help you, if you're centrifuging beer or if you're separating solids from your liquids, you would want to know those numbers. We kind of just shoot from the hip a little bit, and yeah, it looks about right this week. I didn't set out to just make hazy IPAs, but
Yeah, that's a great question. We were going to ask, like, you have Exhibit A makes other things besides
How
the
many
delicious
styles?
double IPAs, right?
yeah, I mean, I've got 10 different beers sitting in front of me from the cooler.
We saw, by the way, we were video chatting with Matthew beforehand, and you can't see the selection that he has, but
There's a lot
he's
of
got
beers.
pretty much every single. He came prepared. That's what I could say.
I got some Kolsch here. This is Sunday Papers, our stout. I got Briefcase Porter. That's one of our year-round core beers. Porter
Is one of those your most awarded beer? Do you have sort of your?
I don't. I think the beer that would have had the most accolades would be the Kolsch, and that's because it's had articles in Craft Beer and Brewing. It's been rated by the Beer Advocate Bros they gave it 100, which is kind of rare.
Out of 100,
That
correct.
is,
It's 100 out of 100, which is a good score. Apparently,
pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I mean, that's a testament, because just like brewing a lager, like a Pilsner or a Kolsch, if you can brew those to that level, that's just, it's a testament to how good of a brewer you are.
You can't dump
because
super
you
sexy
can't
hops
hide
in it.
behind
Mhm.
the haze
It's
or
true.
the Citra or
That's
whatever
what we
the hop
drink. I
is.
mean, all our brewers. There's now 7 full-time brewers with me on the crew,
Upstairs.
and we all. You want to go upstairs? All right. We all drink Kolsch, and we all are super proud of that beer. And when it's not perfect, we all get bent out of shape. Cat's Meow pays the bills, and Kolsch is the soul. It's like, it's kind of just how it's been, how it's going to
That's
be, and
deep.
how it's been. I think of it that way. Although Just a Kitten, which is our new IPA, which we just put out. I keep going backwards on the camera. This, I believe, will be a very, very successful brand for us over the next couple of years.
Who drew the art?
My stepdaughter Isabella did the art for this. There's a cute little
That's
kitten.
awesome.
She's in art school in
I'm
college.
allergic, but that's incredible.
Has she done other art, or is this the first?
It's her second label she did for us. She did demo tape 17 when she was just turning 17, which was like an orange creamsicle milkshake debauchery of beer, and it was good. The label was
Matthew,
fun.
I think you're gonna have to tell us a little about your distribution network, because
people want
They
it, so
are
eventually.
clawing at us to know where they can purchase.
So in Massachusetts, you can get us at any one of 600 or 700 really great off-premise retailers. Certainly, all of the larger, well-known beer destinations have us. We're in, I don't know, right now with the way on-premise bars and restaurants are suffering and kind of hemorrhaging, and some are open and some are closed. We're still managing a bit of support in the takeout business a little bit, like people buying our cans for their bar. A good friend of mine has a bar called the Public House in Brookline, and great legendary place. David has been there since the beginning of beer in Boston for the most part. And, those are the kind of places that we really want to see people supporting. They have some draft beer. I was at the Rail Trail in Hudson. They had Briefcase Porter on the other day, and I was like, wow, like the fact that you're ordering kegs is brave and
Yeah.
incredible.
people are not doing that right now.
Yeah, but our distro, we are currently in all of Massachusetts and Rhode Island. We sell beer in select markets in New York. We're also in Maine and Vermont in limited amounts. And we just launched New Hampshire literally last week. They got their first delivery. And we actually expect good things out of New Hampshire, because New Hampshire is like, it's a great market consumer wise, but there's not a ton of options. Like, they have great local beer, but New Hampshire market doesn't have a ton from out of market that's like, isn't just your mainstream stuff. So being there,
people want Connecticut. Is it got to Connecticut yet?
Connecticut, I see that. Connecticut is down the pipe a little bit. We are apprehensive with Connecticut for a variety of reasons. The big one with Connecticut is all of the hoops you have to jump through and the money it costs to be there. And we're also not sure how we want to distro in Connecticut.
If you need Chad and I to grease any pockets, let us know.
We could be beer mules. I'm down.
Small part of our portfolio.
It's an essential.
Yeah, Ian seems to agree with me about the blue laws in Connecticut.
I'm sure we can get a petition of how many people want your beer in Connecticut.
Let's do that. I would love that. And actually, it sounds like Rachel is interested that we sell beer in Chicago, and Illinois is on our list. So that's exciting to see someone interested for Chicago. We are with a company called Tavor. Ship beer, mail order style out on the West Coast. And their subsidiary, there's a company called the Beverage Advisors. And basically we distribute through the Beverage Advisors in Arizona. I just signed a deal for California, and we're going to be signing for Colorado and Illinois and possibly more.
And can you expand a little
for getting beer that's not in your area? So if people aren't familiar, we actually looked when we were building out after COVID happened, when we started building out our mail order business for beer. Yeah. That was one of, I mean, they are the gold standard when it comes to doing mail orders. So we went right to the source to figure out what's the best way to do this.
Yeah, we've had good luck with them. I mean, we limit them to keep it on the West Coast. Like, I don't need them selling beer to New Yorkers,
Yeah,
exactly.
And what were some of the, like, from a business perspective, what were some of the difficulties in expanding the Exhibit A brand portfolio outside of like your region, like locally? What's going to be hard about getting California and Colorado and Illinois?
Honestly, I think the hardest thing for me is just letting those babies leave. Like I am fearful for my little cans. Like, I don't want them to be beat up and treated poorly and bullied in the market. Yeah. I want them to have a nice little position. I want them to sit there on the shelf and be like, hey, buy me. And I think one of the downsides of being in a market like California, my sister's in LA. She's like, I'm going to buy all your beer. I'm like, first of all, I'm going to have to check you in if that happens. But yeah, I am fearful for the product. Like, I really want to make sure that you're enjoying our product at its finest, and I think as you spread yourselves out, you start to consider maybe, we don't want to do that too quick, and we don't want to do that too far. We had this grand plan a couple of years ago to ship beer to Russia, and it was requested to go, like, we had a place in Russia that wanted our product, a distributor there through our friends at Shelton Brothers, and we shipped 2 pallets, Kolsch, it was a porter Kolsch and stout. We put little Russian, like on the date code, we wrote in Russian, and it was like, we were so excited. And then it goes to the boat, embargo, sorry, your beer's not going anywhere. So our good friends down in New Orleans at the, what's that pub called down there? Shoot, I should be able to rip that off, but I forget what it's called right now. But they took all the beer down there, so we ended up selling beer to New Orleans in Louisiana. Cool. We're like, okay, I guess
Russia,
we're distributing.
New Orleans, potato,
same difference.
Yeah, well, the kid in Russia, his brother was in New Orleans, so it like kind of worked out that way. But yeah, so we've just been really careful about making sure that whenever our beer does go somewhere, it goes there in a responsible way, and it's you're finding it in its peak fresh form,
Yeah, no, I mean, they're your babies. Like, you want to make sure that it's the same thing when it goes to like kegs, that's like the worst with keg lines and cleaning. We go into all that detail when we're on tours, actually running experiences, showing people that side of the business, because it's your babies. Like what happens after they go out of your hands, it's really, and they can just mess up your product. Quick question though, so this Exhibit A is not your first run at brewing. It sounds like you've been around the block when it comes to beer. What were you doing pre?
I was growing gray beards for the last decade and a half. So my career turned 21 this year. Officially before
your career can officially drink.
Yes, now it's legal. I've worked in a variety of brew pubs. My first professional brewing job, I guess, post homebrew shop, was at a brewery called Harpoon here in Boston. And I left Harpoon after about a year, and I worked at John Harvard's in Cambridge, which is no longer there, for, I don't know, 3 years almost. Moved around a little bit. There was a company called Rapscallion that still exists, that was started by Dan Paquette before he started Pretty Things. And the original four of us we're part of Rapscallion. And after that kind of fell apart sort of, and things changed, and Dan left, and whatever, the company changed and was sold. I ended up getting a head brewing job for a company called Offshore Ale on Martha's Vineyard. And that was where I really learned how to brew. I threw away all the recipes when I got there with that brewer, and I developed a whole portfolio for the first time after, at that point had been brewing professionally roughly 6 years, and I was given free reign. Just, here you go. Here's a brew system. Do what you want. And that boss was great, because I didn't have to, he didn't nickel and dime me. He's not like, what, those hops cost $10 a pound? What, And in those days, $10 a pound was a lot.
You want.
Yeah. And then after he and I had our time, I decided to leave. When I say he, I mean the island of Martha's Vineyard, not that boss. But we ended up. I just had to get off that island and opened a brewery called Mayflower Brewing in Plymouth as the first head brewer there.
Wow,
that was you?
That was me. So I started. I was the first brewer at Mayflower. Developed that first core portfolio with Mayflower Porter, which is still one of those beers that people ask me about.
That beer is awesome. Yeah,
it's great.
Won a lot of awards.
I still drink their beers. I love those guys. And my assistant brewer then became the head brewer and was the head brewer there for 10 years. So Ryan has since left. He started distillery. But yeah, and then after Mayflower, I actually came home to be a stay-at-home parent to that now 11-year-old. And that 2 years later, I started a company called Blatant Brewery, and I was working for a company called High Horse at the time, which was a bar and brewery in Amherst. And then decided to jump ship and start my own brewery. And that's when Exhibit A.
Here we are.
Yes. And that was after a conversation with Jack and Sam Hendler from Jack's Abbey. When I saw their equipment, I'm looking at it and I'm like, you guys are way over capacity. You're clearly going to move out of this place. And they were like, actually, we are. We should talk about the equipment. And that's
crazy.
Yeah.
So impressive.
That was 22 years and 4 minutes.
I feel like I've known you for 22 years.
Oh,
no, what a story. And I love how local, it's like so Boston too. Like,
it is so Boston. Yeah.
Harpoon, John Harvard, working on the Vineyard Mayflower. It's like,
there's a whole tour of Massachusetts brewing history.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I think we just need to add. I think we need to just add like a little segment in our beer history on our tours, just about Matthew Steinberg. It would just be like, we're not even going to talk about our beer, like going back to like ancient Mesopotamia. Let's just do Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And I'll just throw a photo up of you in the van, and it'll be like, this is his shrine. This is how Mass beer kind of evolved.
I love that. Good. I think there's one more pressing question I want to ask that I think has been asked probably 10 times in 10 slightly different ways. And then I think we're probably good for the candles. I don't know if Noah was going to come back down, but
I don't know
if we're lucky. So
hopefully he still has all his fingers from doing the
I don't know.
So night one of this experience was a very distinct Northwest style IPA from Old Town in Portland, Oregon. It was crystal clear. It was delicious. And so people really want to know what's
not juicy by any.
Right. Dry, crispy.
Pretty balanced though, like kind of piney. And people really want to know what's the difference between like a New England style IPA, a West Coast style IPA. Where do you see the difference? What can make one of them look so hazy and juicy and one so clear and like hoppy bitter?
Yeah, I mean, there's
not just from a flavor profile, Matt, but more from like we have
the technical
side brewer, how from a brewing process too, because I think that's something that people are interested in is like
how do we
making
get
the beer. How does it differ?
I mean, what's interesting is I think some of the confusion is that this is like all yeast material that's left in the beer. In some cases it might be, and I can't speak on every brewery, but depending on what kind of yeast you use, it's gonna hang up in suspension and be floating in the beer, and that's the opacity that you see. That's the haze you see. In other cases, the yeast will drop out of the beer, and there's polyphenols and hop material and various proteins that are causing this haze, which is actually what's happening for our beers. There is some yeast in there, there's no question, but we don't centrifuge, we don't filter, we separate just with time and temperature. So meaning like the tank is cold and all the yeast is settling into that cone, and then we rack off the top of the yeast basically. The action that we're creating with that dry hopping mechanism, where we're spinning the beer and dry hopping and infusing those hops in a stream of beer, what it's doing is there's a biotransformation that happens that basically the proteins are connecting and attaching themselves to the yeast, and then it's creating this haze, this cloudiness that's kind of permanent in that way. I don't know how sciencey we want to get.
That is crazy. No, I'm
trying to keep it loose. I like the idea though that, like, for instance, I could make this beer, Hair Raiser, the way we do it, which is this hazy, beautiful beer. We could also treat it a little bit different, and we would get a bright, crystal clear beer out of it. There's slight process things that we do to avoid that clarity, which is kind of like, after 10 years of brewing, the one thing I tried to do best was make my beer clear,
Now you're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. And now I like talk to old friends that are like, brewers that are older than me, or at least within my same realm of age. And they're like, we studied, we went to symposiums, we like did all this work to try to make beer bright. And now we're doing this. And I'll tell you what, I have a massive amount of pride and a massive amount of just enjoyment in these beers. Like, I actually, now if I drink a Racer 5, which I adore, or even a Sierra Nevada, I'm like, wow, this is so bitter and like clean and tasty, but it's like, I don't know, it's just something about the haze. I guess I'm on board, I don't know what to say.
Mitch asked, brew hazy versus clear. What is that process that you just mentioned? That from like a technical brewing perspective that happens
in our brewery, it's when we dry hop. So we drop the hops. We drop the yeast at the end of fermentation. And then as soon as that yeast is dropped, we keep it at that 72-degree temp, which is our fermentation temperature. And then we start that dry hop process. And during that process, that biotransformation is happening, even though there's not really much fermentation. But I don't know if everyone's heard about this, but hop creep, which is basically the enzymes in hops are creating this kind of rejuvenated, energized thing that happens. And now we're getting a little bit of fermentation. So we'll go from like 4 Plato to 3.5 Plato post fermentation, post dry hopping. And that thing that's happening then is what's basically maintaining our haze. That cloudiness that we're getting is going to maintain because of that transformation that's happened, and the positives and negatives that are connecting to each other, whether it's yeast or protein or hop material or whatever. in our case, one of the goals we have in the future is to actually get a centrifuge so that we can measure that turbidity going into the fuge, measure it coming out, and then nail that haze every time. Because
That's science.
Which
So
yeah,
you're actually, are you measuring that? So you don't know every time you get
No.
a new beer, you are just hoping that the turbidity is the same between each batch.
Right.
That's amazing.
And
So,
we are pretty consistent. We are rather consistent. We're the first ones to tell you, like, we drink these beers every single day. We do sensory on them. We do not package a beer until everyone in the room has tasted and evaluated and approved it. And if I'm not there, everyone's doing the same thing. Like I've instilled that. Like we taste everything. We do not put beer in cans. It's too expensive to do that. You fill this with shit beer. Sorry, I got to throw it away.
Yeah.
And so
the mouthfeel is definitely, like, the more hazy it is, it definitely adds to the mouthfeel.
Fuller mouthfeel, yeah.
Of the taste, right? Like it's gonna linger a little bit longer. It's gonna be a little bit more creamier.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a combination of mouthfeel. My brother, who was just calling me, he's not on this, but he hates that word. He finds that mouthfeel is the most inappropriate word to use when talking about flavor. But mouthfeel is from a combination of sugars, whether it's a thicker feel or a thinner feel based on the sweetness of the product. So in this case, Hair Razor's, I wouldn't call it sweet, but it's certainly not dry. And it's somewhere in the middle for sure. And that mouthfeel that we're getting is from a combination of the sugars and the sweetness that's in the beer to give that full-bodied feel, but also the proteins that are in there and that sort of thick, liquid. I mean, the liquid is got some depth to it. It's not, this isn't a crispy light lager, and that's, I think, one of the things we love about them. I know that talking to non-beer drinkers that are just getting introduced to these hazy IPAs are like, wow, I never knew beer could taste like, tangerine juice. Like, I had no idea. So, yeah.
Yeah. I said night one, someone asked our favorite style of beer, and I said juice. I like beers that remind me of juice, sort of tongue-in-cheekly. Barry, who is the COO, threatened to fire me as a result. But
he's anti-haze.
He is the anti-haze.
He is actually, no, he's a hazy boy. No,
yeah, at his heart and soul, at his heart of hearts, he loves especially Simcoe. This is his favorite hop. But
Simcoe's great.
But for me, I appreciate the fact that the different, like, Busch Light or whatever, or Bud Light, like these like really light American lagers can take, this beer doesn't taste like that. There's a complete transformation. Say it's beer, right? But it's a whole different experience. And I think that that's like so incredible. And so I appreciate that. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's but like Matthew said, like the Kolsch, to brew that to that quality level. I mean, for me, I've kind of gone through like this ebb and flow of beer drinking where it was like I wanted that super hazy. Now I want German lagers. Now that's my jam.
Yeah.
Give me a Doppelbock. Give me a Helles. Like, I'm all about that. And so, yeah, I think it's crazy, the spectrum of what you can brew.
I love
Todd. I think we're
Chad. We've done it again.
We keep saying that we're going
drinkers.
to say today. I did not say 15-ish minutes because
we just knew it was a lie at that point.
We
I've
knew
never said
Matthew was
anything
that
for
awesome
15 minutes.
that we were just like, whatever. We're just gonna throw it. It's gonna be in Matthew's court. We're just
my wife was like, "Wait, you're gonna be on for 15 minutes? You're not even gonna finish your intro."
What we've learned is that we've all learned a little about ourselves, and that was that we needed to carve out some time. But I think we should get to the menorah.
Oh yeah,
should. Yeah. So Matthew Steinberg, obviously he's Jewish.
A great email.
Liana's not coming back. That was like a one-time thing to get Liana to do the prayer. And thank you, wife. I appreciate you very much. But we are honored to have Matthew actually be doing lighting the fourth night.
Give me just 1 sec. I thought I was going to be set up.
No worries. Well, Todd, this is a perfect time to talk about our blog.
So we talked about the IPA tonight, citybrewtours.com/Hanukkah. The next blog that comes up on there will be about IPAs. It was written by Mike, one of our favorite beer guides out of formerly Baltimore, and I live in North Carolina, but tons of information there.
He is an avid home. He's not just a beer guide. He is a home brewer. He is like, you have questions about home brewing, like he is your go-to source. Like the setup that he has is insane. And
he's
so
obsessed. It's incredible.
It was honestly so easy when we were at like, oh, how do we need content for tonight. Who are we going to get to write it? I was like, oh,
here we go.
We know the guy who's just going to just do it.
Look at that.
So I would like to say this was my mother's menorah. So we love using it.
That is awesome.
That's amazing.
She's no longer here, so she's here in this menorah. And then this was my grandmother's menorah, which is just a small, simple.
It's so cool to see all the wax on it.
Oh yeah, this was from last year. We never cleaned it from last year.
Well, I was thinking like.
I mean, from 20 years ago, from my grandmother Bluma. Yeah. So hang on 1 second. Let me see if the little guy's gonna come down. Hey Noah.
So I wanted to say I'm rocking my Jewish camp while we're waiting for Matt. Like I feel like I needed to. You have your Sugar Bush class.
Sugar Bush Resort.
My Jew camp, Camp Kindering.
What? You were also married there, Chip.
I was married there. I didn't even think about saying that. I completely forgot.
Prayer? So this is my.
What would you do without me?
Here, come on over.
I appreciate you. All right, Noah. Thank you for.
We're so happy to have Noah back.
Helping us. We really appreciate you.
Yeah. So we're gonna do it. He's generally shy on camera, so. All right, buddy. 11 years old. Go ahead. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'chazek ner shel Hanukkah. There you go. Now, if his sister was here, we could do all the songs.
Oh, we have so many songs in our family. I'm not going to do them because it would just be the most embarrassing.
I'm like on fire over here. Nice. No, that's fun.
Matthew, that was great.
It's hard to see, isn't it? It's like reflecting poorly.
So good.
I think people can tell that's on fire.
Appreciate it. And obviously, most people have already lit their candles, so we can't say the next prayer, but we're not going to just because we already have everyone lit their candles already. So it's more.
Sun came down hours ago.
Yeah, like Matthew already lit his candles. He was just doing this for us because this is how we finish off each night because it is Hanukkah.
Yeah.
4 more nights.
5th night tomorrow, though.
5th night's a big night, and I have a memory about the 5th night. My parents, they were tricksters back in the day, and so they said you can open up any present, but except the big one. And this, mind you, this was 1981 or whatever. And so I opened one up, and it's a Pac-Man cartridge for the Atari 2600. Now, let's just think for a second. I don't have an Atari. So I now know that the big box is the Atari. My brother's freaking out. He's 2.5 years older than me. He's wigging out. He's like, dude, we're getting Atari. He didn't say dude. It was 1981. But he was psyched. And then they wouldn't let us open it until the last night. So we're sitting here with this Pac-Man cartridge with nothing to do. And we knew that it was combat.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Funny.
Yeah. They thought marijuana was legal back then, I think.
I wasn't alive, but I think it might have been. I'm not convinced otherwise. Matthew, can't thank you enough. This has been so incredibly fun and informative. I feel like a whole new genius of the IPA. Look, just a little
polish that. You got to polish that. Finish that one off.
I'm going to save this for another day. I'm not finishing mine.
Hey,
It's okay.
I'm brewing in the morning. Give me a
you
break.
can have it every day.
Yeah.
Just tomorrow, right? We just tomorrow. We'll see everyone tomorrow.
9 p.m. See you then.
9 p.m. Right?
Thank you.
And check out the blog. If you have any questions about IPAs or whatnot, we can probably get those answers to you. So definitely chat. Nope. I almost gave my email address. support@citybrewtours.com. If you want to email me something too, you can. Chat at citybrewtours.com. Feel free. Todd at citybrewtours.com. I just threw out his. Sorry, I'm just throwing
business inquiries only. If you need a cameo for a last minute
private
gift.
experiences. If you want a beer and cheese pairing or private brew tour, go to Todd. But
Sounds
Matthew,
like-
thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank
Really
you. Appreciate you all.
Have a good night.
And have a good night, everyone. Happy Hanukkah or Happy
Happy Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah.